As you get older, the holidays become an increasingly stressful time. When you're a kid, it's all about family,
Don't piss me off, Art.
and new Star Wars toys, but now as an adult, it's just bad weather and the dried up corpse of your mother begging you to stop the killing. Shut up, Mom. Not many movies these days manage to capture the true feeling of returning home for the holidays, and today's movie is no exception. I found this little gem the other day called Bloodbeat. It was released straight to VHS in the 80s and has been out of print ever since. Well, at least up until a random Blu-ray upscale released a few years ago. Bloodbeat is about a family reuniting for Christmas in rural Wisconsin when they're all hunted by a murderous samurai. And no, none of this will make any more sense at all when we're done. But I'm going to try to explain this to the best of my ability anyways. Let's begin. But before we go any further, I'm stopping you guys again to request that you all subscribe. We basically hit the sub goal I put in my last video, so I'm kind of lazy. I'm not going to put a sub goal in this one, but if you like this video, you should subscribe, and you will like this video because it's good and I made it, and if you don't, I'm going to do bad things to the sweatshop workers that I have editing this video, and I mean, bad things might happen. I'm not going to do anything to them, but, you know, once again, it's in their best interest that you subscribe. Think of Lou Jin. We're first introduced to Kathy and her boyfriend, Gary. Gary is a hunter, and they live in the middle of nowhere in this house in the woods. Kathy is a painter and also has psychic visions. Which is later on both important, but still completely unimportant. It'll make sense when we get there. Kathy's kids come home because it's Christmas. This is Ted and Dolly and Ted's girlfriend Sarah. At this point of the movie, a realization should be sinking in. The sound in this movie fucking sucks. I couldn't understand half of what anyone was saying.
This is your little nest. You like it? It's an old guest room.
But I used my advanced body language detecting skills to sense that Kathy's first meeting with Sarah is kind of awkward. If your partner's mom ever hits you with one of these, it's over. Kathy claims that she knows Sarah from somewhere, and this is brought up throughout the movie several times. We then move to the upstairs bedroom where we get the gratuitous nudity/sex scene, the best part of any 1980s slasher flick. Sarah and Ted are making out, but she keeps saying that she's uncomfortable because she can feel his mom watching them, almost like she's in the room with them, you know, because she's psychic. She keeps trying to call it off, but Ted just doesn't let up. He keeps grabbing her, and she keeps saying no, and it's really uncomfortable to watch.
What's the matter?
Not to come across like a soy boy liberal, but I think when a woman says no, you're supposed to listen, even if it's your girlfriend. This brings me to a complaint I have with this movie. I really don't like Ted, and by the end of this whole ordeal, he's kind of the main character. See, if you're a reasonable person, going in, you might assume that Sarah will be the main character because she's like the fish out of water character, and that's usually the most relatable character for the audience because they learn stuff with us at the same time. But no, that would just make too much sense. So it's Ted, and he demonstrates some more weird behavior in the next scene. I guess probably concerning behavior. See, Dolly, Ted, Sarah, Gary, and their uncle go hunting. I'm never going to talk about the uncle ever again, but he gets murdered in a very cliche and uninteresting scene later on. For some reason, before they shoot a deer, Sarah screams and they all miss their shots and the deer runs off. Sarah then runs away, and Ted chases after her screaming like a fucking maniac. Listen, I understand, sometimes in relationships your partner can really get under your skin, but this looks less like a guy chasing after his girlfriend and more like me chasing after my sweatshop workers when they escape the factory. Shit, I would keep running too. Billy Loomis pre-Ghostface reveal is at the top of my list of bad horror movie boyfriends, but I think Ted might be worse. Sure, Billy was always begging Sydney to get into bed with him and it made her uncomfortable, but at least he stopped when she said no. Sarah gets stopped when a random guy no one has ever seen before stumbles into her with a giant wound across his stomach. This one moment prevents me from crafting a single explanation for why anything that happens in this movie happens. But once again, we'll have to get into that later. They all return home and the mom is painting the poster for Kagamusha? Sarah crawls into bed because she's upset by the situation, but she finds a trunk at the foot of the bed, and when she opens it up, there's a suit of samurai armor inside, so she falls out of bed after cutting her finger on the sword. Then Ted and Kathy go to check up on her and the armor disappears and her cut is healed, almost like it never happened, and they tell her it was probably just a dream. So she just goes back to sleep and we cut to a new set of characters. This old neighbor couple from down the street. This is a generic slasher setup, two people on their own in a house, doing mundane things while an unseen monster stalks them, but this movie mixes things up by cutting back to Sarah, who is being given the biggest O of her life by visions of the murders as they happen. Although the dialogue from this movie sounds like it was recorded by the first microphone ever invented, I can kind of make out the husband asking his wife to get him some orange juice. She goes to the kitchen and makes him some kind of orange powder drink, kind of like the shit you can get from the grocery store. I don't know why they don't just have orange juice, but while she's doing this, making this nasty orange concoction for her stupid husband, the ghost samurai stabs her in a bloodless murder. Then shortly after the husband walks out, he's mildly bothered at the sight of his wife's body. Listen, the same thing happened to me, and this led to me being the prime suspect in my wife's murder for 10 years. Finally, they moved on, but I just could not shake this accusation. Or maybe he's just upset at the orange powder drink she tried making him. Either way, the samurai starts chasing him, so he dives out the window like Tom fucking Cruise and takes off. He makes it to the house where the main family lives, but the ghost samurai shoots him in the back with an arrow. Wait, ghost samurai? Is this movie connected to the 1999 Jim Jarmusch classic Ghost Dog Way of the Samurai starring Forrest Whitaker? Anyways, this is actually a really good shot, even though the image of a samurai shooting a guy with a bow and arrow outside of a house covered in Christmas lights makes no sense visually. It just looks really nice, like the way the shot is framed and the positioning of the characters. I don't know, I kind of like looking at it. Gary and Ted open the front door and see the neighbor's dead body. Now the movie transitions into Poltergeist. Shit starts flying all around, the whole house shakes, and Gary is pelted to death by Pepsi cans. I wasn't sure if this was possible, so I dragged one of the people out of my basement and threw Pepsi cans at them until they stopped moving. I can confirm it does work, but it takes a few tries and you've got to really give it your all with each throw. I'd recommend getting a firm grasp along the side of the can, not the top or the bottom, and don't aim for like the top of the head. The skull is too thick and it ain't gonna do much. You'll see some damage if you aim for the nose, but it's all superficial. Go for the back of the neck or the temple. It'll take a couple cans, but you will get there eventually. Wait, what was going on with this movie again? Oh yeah, poltergeist stuff. So the mom uses her psychic powers to convene with the ghost.
No.
Once again, the dialogue is almost impossible to understand, but I think I got the gist of it. The mom, Kathy, seems to be familiar with this ghost and drops a basic "leave my family alone" speech. I guess it works because the ghost decides to fuck off and we find out that unfortunately Gary somehow survived. Instead of reporting any of this to the police, including the dead body and their porch, everybody decides to tuck into bed for the night. How the fuck is anyone able to sleep? Your house just tried to kill you and your neighbor was murdered on your front porch. Maybe all these people are psychopaths or something. Maybe the ghost samurai should kill them. I think I'm switching teams. I mean, I already don't like Ted. The ghost samurai goes out and kills these 3 random hunters. I guess he's pissed he couldn't get to the family, but at that point, why not just kill the family? It was a polite request to leave. He didn't have to listen to her. There was nothing stopping the ghost samurai from getting in. At least I don't think there was. Once again, during this random hunter murder, we cut back to Sarah having the big O, except this time she's having sex with Ted. But between me and you, I don't think he's the one getting her all worked up like this. No one ever tell him, it will destroy his ego forever. The next day, Ted wanders off into the woods, so Dolly and Gary go out after him. Ghost Samurai makes another appearance and tries to attack them. But after chasing them behind a tree, he just disappears after Gary hits him with an axe, and he leaves behind a suit of armor. The three of them take it back, and Kathy tells Gary to burn it, but he doesn't want to, and honestly, I'm on his side. What man's room wouldn't benefit from a full suit of haunted samurai armor? Now we reach the climax of the movie. They're about to start explaining things. Let's pay attention, and maybe this movie can finally make some sense. Ted walks into his room and sees that Sarah has pyrokinesis and is burning up a picture of a random woman. She uses psychic powers to toss Ted across the room, then suits up in the samurai armor to fight Kathy. Let's listen to what they have to say.
No, you can't destroy me.
My God wants you.
You can't destroy me.
Your power can't have you.
What, are you fucking kidding me? You put the samurai's voice in a horrible free-to-use voice modulator and blast Carmina Burana so literally not a single word can be understood? I mean, that's one way to keep the mystery of your movie a secret. This movie does drop one breadcrumb for the audience, and there's no dialogue in this scene so everyone can understand it. During Kathy's confrontation, the movie cuts to stock footage of fucking Hiroshima. And no, I'm not joking, so we might not see any bombs going off, but I can connect dots, and when the only two dots are Japanese warrior ghost and World War II American airships, I think there's only one reasonable conclusion to draw. And if there was ever a reason for a Japanese ghost to be pissed off at an American, that would probably be it. I saw Oppenheimer. The war was basically over, but the president wanted to pull a funny prank. And I'm not gonna lie, you got him good, Truman. Even peak Vitalis TV couldn't top this one. Does anyone even remember that guy? So Sarah kills Gary and Kathy, then Ted and Dolly storm in. And without any hesitation or reaction, they use their own psychic powers that we have been given zero indication they have before this scene. And Ted, are you okay? Do you need to change your pants? Sarah fucking explodes and the movie ends. Confused, are you? No, it's not my fault for doing a bad job of explaining this movie. Every review I found for it online mentions how confusing it is, and no one seems to understand who the samurai is or what they wanted. I've been Googling ever since I saw this, but I guess this movie isn't big enough to create a group of people dedicated to solving the mystery. So here's my attempt. I think that the samurai's ghost is some dude who was killed by bombing runs in World War II. Whichever pilot or whoever killed him is the father of Kathy, or related to her directly in some way. The ghost samurai was never able to get to them, maybe because of Kathy's psychic abilities, so the ghost latched itself onto Sarah when she started dating Ted, using this as an opportunity to get to Kathy. Now that it's in the home, it activates its Winter Soldier protocol and starts killing people. This is signaled in the movie by Sarah having her vision of the samurai armor. There's one hole in this theory, and that's the random dead guy that Sarah bumps into. He appears before the samurai starts killing, and we never learn who he is or what killed him, and the movie draws a lot of attention to the fact that no one knows who he is, and no one has ever seen him before. There's also some symbolism I feel like I'm missing out on and I can't understand. At the start of the movie, Gary brings home this deer that he shot in a hunt, and for some reason Kathy is all bothered by it, and Gary audibly points out multiple times that this is unusual because she's seen him bring home deers and she's never had any kind of reaction or been bothered by it. And also, kind of one of the inciting incidents of this movie is Sarah jumping up and screaming and preventing the family from shooting the deers, early on. So I don't know what that symbolism means around the deers and killing them and not killing them, but I feel like it has to mean something, right? Needless to say, I don't know what the fuck I just watched. My sweatshop worker Lou Jin likes to tell me old stories from back home, and those make way more sense than this shit. And I don't even speak fucking Chinese, and that's all he says them in. You want to know the weirdest part of this, though? I somehow came away with a mostly favorable opinion of this thing. Sure, it sounds like it's being played out of a phonograph and was filmed in 4:3 aspect ratio. What the fuck is this, the Snyder Cut? But I'd rather watch this over the Snyder Cut. Actually, I'd rather watch this over a lot of movies, especially horror movies. As a lover of the horror genre, I think it's important to recognize that like 90% of the content here is derivative, lifeless slop. But Bloodbeat is a movie that defies all labels, expectations, and conventions. I want to talk about another movie series that it made me think of. Friday the 13th, particularly the first movie. Fuck this movie. If you haven't seen it, you may assume that this is a good film because it spawned one of the big 3 horror franchises. Well, it's not. Friday the 13th is a movie where nothing happens at all, and it will actively erase itself from your memory as you watch it. But they do have some similarities because I think the worst moments in Bloodbeat are when it fully commits to the slasher bit. And those scenes are all very reminiscent of Friday the 13th. These scenes do a terrible job of setting up tension and anticipation. You're left watching people do boring daily tasks in excruciating detail until the killer finally takes them out. But the appearance of the killer is completely expected, and he makes his appearance exactly when you think he will. When breaking the tension in a horror movie, you want it to be like a bomb going off. Bombs are always unexpected, trust me. I mailed them to tons of people, and no one ever sees them coming. But an explosion can't exactly be startling when you can see the fuse burning away. I don't know if I'd die on the hill of calling Bloodbeat a good movie, but it's definitely a worthwhile movie. I respect it for being unexpectedly good in a lot of places. This is just pure, unfiltered, artistic expression, and I respect that. Having less blemishes or imperfections isn't what makes a movie good. There are a lot of movies that are better because of their flaws, and this is just one of them. But above all, I was never bored. Something I can't say about the majority of 80s slasher flicks. However, I would kill for a modern day remake of this movie. I know, don't boo me yet. I think remakes aren't a bad idea on their own. Just hear me out. We're misusing them. We don't need a remake of every hit from the 80s and 90s. We should be remaking movies that had good ideas but didn't quite hit the mark. Kind of like a second chance. Speaking of second chances, I have a court date this Wednesday for the murder of a Rouse cashier. I'm begging anyone watching this video to plead with the members of the jury to give me another chance. I promise I won't do it again. Okay, thanks for watching.